Hey everyone, welcome back to Temple of Geeks Who Review, a Doctor Who inspired podcast for fans of the long-running British science fiction television series. I'm your host, Nate, aka Doc in the Box, if I can get my own name correct.
And I'm your other host, Elizabeth, aka Lady of Time Cosplay.
So if this is your first time, we are massive Doctor Who fans, and we are here to talk about all things that are Doctor Who. Throughout our series, we'll be discussing, and we have discussed, latest episodes, the classic series, spin-offs, and everything in between.
Yeah, we'll also have some interviews with people who worked in and around the series, behind the scenes information, and all sorts of other Doctor Who related fun.
So if you work with the series and you listen to our podcast, hey, maybe reach out. I don't know. I'm just saying. But so whether you're a longtime fan or just getting started, we hope you'll join us for the ride.
Today, we will be discussing the first episode of season 2 or I don't know what the whole other numbering system is at this point.
It's officially Doctor Who season 2.
Officially season 2, yes.
Correct.
So we'll be talking The Robot Revolution today, which is very exciting. I have been looking forward to season 2 for a while, and I am so happy that it's finally here. But that said, if you haven't watched the episode yet, don't listen to this yet. Go watch it, and then come back and listen to us talk about it, and let us know what you think as well.
And again, it's written by Russell T Davies, our returning showrunner.
Yeah. So I guess to start, we can just talk about what we thought about the episode overall.
It was fun. The end of it did feel rushed to me. I did have a bit of a gripe at the end, just as far as we'll get into that as we go chronologically, possibly, because we do jump around a bit. There was one gripe where I was just like, I think they forced acceptance of a situation in for time. But other than that, it was an enjoyable episode. Would I recommend it for someone to watch for the first time? I don't know. I think the season 1 would be better. There's a better starting point. But overall, I'm curious to see what happens. I'm excited to see what's coming this season.
Yeah. It felt like a pretty solid way to introduce the new companion. I think it's a pretty unique introduction for a companion to the Doctor, because recently it's just been like, oh, they've all met him on Earth, with like the exception of like Martha met him on the moon, Donna met him on the TARDIS, everybody else, they've just met the Doctor on Earth. So I thought it was an interesting way to do it, where the companion gets kidnapped onto a different planet and the Doctor's there to help her. Though obviously there's a bit more of a story and a mystery about how he learned about Belinda in the first place, which I'm looking forward to seeing how that plays out. I do think that there were a couple parts of the episode that were a little like on the nose, especially with, again, I've already said spoilers, but spoilers again, especially with the AI thing. Like, I thought I was like, oh, that's really on the nose, but it works. But then we can talk about this more later. It works on another level even after the reveal. Not entirely sure if that was on purpose or not, but overall I really enjoyed it. It set up a couple season-long mysteries without really going too insane with setting up those mysteries. Like, there's a couple of things that we still have questions on, but it's not like, oh, time paused and it starts snowing kind of thing. Which, to be clear, I didn't dislike that with Ruby, but you get the questions, you get the mystery. Obviously, there's more to come.
So on the nose, do you mean like someone who is terrible at gaming all of a sudden being in charge of an AI that starts to ruin everything? And I'm sorry, are we talking about?
I didn't even think about that. Didn't even think about that one. No, mostly what I meant.
I don't know if that was intentional either.
Yeah, no, I didn't think about it in that way. No, kind of what I was thinking about was, okay, yeah, obviously AI is like a danger to the creative everything, especially in terms of acting and writing and video games and all that fun stuff. But I also thought, like, this AI is based on a really angry guy who's very controlling. It's like, and that's kind of what because a lot of AIs are trained on data, like from social media and stuff online, it gets those inherent biases in it. So I don't know if that was on purpose, but it was just something that I thought was interesting in terms of, like, yeah, AI is dangerous because, it can try and take these jobs, but also there's clear problems with how AI is trained because it gets all those biases thrown in that are often not correct.
So I know you have this later on in the question, but it occurred early on in the episode, so I feel like maybe we should just tackle it right away.
Yeah.
Is the reappearance of Miss Flood.
Yeah, that was a lot quicker than I thought.
Yeah, and
Um,
so unless she moved, this implies that she's one of Ruby's neighbors also.
yeah, yeah, which, maybe she moved. Who knows? I'm very interested to see what her story is. I think I originally, and when we talked about her at the end of last season, I had originally said, oh, maybe she's the White Guardian
Hmm.
from the Key to Time stuff. But it was actually, I got the 60th anniversary novelizations, and it reminded me that the toy maker actually does talk about the Guardians, and that he turned them into like voodoo dolls or something to that effect. But it's entirely possible that when the toy maker went away, the Guardians also escaped whatever the toy maker did to them.
Yeah, the
Um,
master just keeps appearing out of nowhere, and just
right.
Missy legitimately said just deal with it. So
Exactly.
we could just get them back somehow.
Exactly.
I don't
Um,
remember if it was you or me, but one of us at one point, and this is still playing into that theory, because there were gods. There were the god of what was it, gaming or like the toy maker,
mhm.
music, things like that. Didn't one of us say that maybe she's coincidence? Because they keep bringing up coincidence, and that's was a big thing with Ruby, that there were coincidence, and there was the breach of like story, like fantasy and reality with the goblins, and now we have a breach of fantasy and reality with this little, not the star chart, the star certificate. And I kind of feel like all of this is still interconnected from the first season, and it might all have to do with Ms. Flood.
Yeah, I think that was your idea, and that definitely, it would definitely make sense. Just again, the other thing that I thought was interesting, especially with this episode specifically, even though she's only in it for like what 30 seconds tops, is, she kind of hides to make sure the doctor doesn't see her, and she looks at the camera and says, you haven't seen me, and then runs off. In theory, there's the whole thing where Time Lords are supposed to recognize each other if they see each other, even if it's a different face. So it seemed like maybe that might be part of a reason why she was like, you haven't seen me, and made sure the doctor didn't see her because he would recognize her. Was the other thing that I thought about. I don't think that Mrs. Flood is Romana, because I feel like she would be acting very strangely if she was Romana. But I do want Romana back, especially because she had that whole like the coat she had on at the end of last season was
Yeah,
very reminiscent of the first Romana's coat that she had in her first episode. My other like completely wild left field theory is that she's Rassilon, because
that
the Doctor did kick Rassilon off Gallifrey. We don't know where he wound up.
that
Um,
is wild.
yeah, probably not, but it was just one of those. I'm like, huh, maybe she's Rassilon and she's trying to get some revenge on the Doctor. But I also don't feel like Rassilon would be content to just like sit back and be like, yeah, whatever, because he's an egomaniac and a crazy person.
So maybe she did move, if they if he didn't recognize the neighborhood and she just walked away. I'm like, don't let him see me, because I want
Mm,
to say that he saw her in the first season at one point, but I'm not
yeah,
100% certain. Oh, when she was had groceries, didn't or did she just see the TARDIS?
I think she just saw the TARDIS because she saw the TARDIS disappear and then she dropped her groceries. And then at the end of the episode, she turns to the audience and says, what, you haven't seen a TARDIS before?
Yeah.
So
Also, breaking the fourth wall, wasn't that very White Guardian, or no? Because I thought they did
it's
kind of.
it's been a hot minute since I've watched the Key to Time episode. I don't remember, and I'm not super familiar with anything that they've popped out of in other Doctor Who media outside of the Key to Time,
Oh,
so
I
I'm
think
not
you
sure.
said this. I just remembered. Didn't you at one point say maybe she was
I
television?
think that might also been you. I keep mostly my brain has been like Romana because I want Romana back.
Because if you have music, and then if you have television, because you had that big show number at the end, and then you had a musical number on the Goblin ship. The big show number. I don't remember the name of the episode. And in um
Devil's Cord.
yes, you had the
Mm-hmm.
big show number at the end of that. You had the song. in the Goblin's Court. We have the upcoming episode, which we all know has an animated villain from the promos. So what if she is television?
That's a good thought too, because I think one of the in the trailer for the season, I think she pops up in the audience for that song contest episode, which is later in the season as well.
Which is another televised event, and
Mm-hmm.
they in season one they kept peppering in like real life people from the show. Like there was a lot of breaking the fourth wall and acknowledging that this is a television show in
Yeah.
a way.
I have seen some people have theories like, oh, what if, for the past season and a bit, the Doctor's been trapped in a TV show or something to that effect, which I think could be interesting if done well, but also, like, I don't think it would take away from anything that the Doctor's been through personally, because it's like, just because it's not real doesn't mean it didn't happen to him, kind of thing.
2,000 years.
But yeah.
I was plastic.
Yeah, but yeah, Mrs. Flood is definitely somebody to be watching for this season. I do wonder if we're gonna get her in every episode, kind of like we got Susan Twist on every episode. I'm not sure. We'll have to wait and see. But
Yeah,
she popped up a lot quicker than I thought she was going to.
for sure. And now the main character of the season,
We should talk about Belinda. I love her
Belinda
so
Chandra.
much. She's so cool. I like her a lot.
I liked I like her. I liked her. However, beginning of the episode when they were supposed to be kids, it looked like whoever dressed Steve Buscemi to look like a high schooler was in charge of their wardrobe. It was absolutely terrible.
The wild part is, if the thing says 17 years ago, that was 2008, which, oh man.
Yeah. And I'm not trying to hate on the costuming department. I know you can only de-age someone so much, but I was just like, ooh, they are definitely not this young.
Yeah. But I did love her, like, little space buns in the flashbacks, though. Those were really cute.
That
I
was
loved
cute.
those.
Yeah,
That was
admittingly,
cute.
that was cute.
But yeah, I really love her. She's really cool. I really appreciated how quick she is to get everything, but also, like, completely is unimpressed by the dog. Like, she understands what he's going for, but she's like, I don't need you to fight my battles for me. Thank you very much, and will just do what she needs to do herself. Yeah, like I in my notes I said she reads the Doctor super well and a little bit for filth, especially with her line about, oh, that's always the way. There's always a doctor standing back while the nurses do all the hard work.
I feel like we're getting a mix of the kind of better halves of Donna and Martha in
Mm-hmm.
this character so far. So there's definitely the parallels of the medical background. She met off of planet just like Martha. Then the not the quick wit, but the ability to stand up to the doctor up front, like what's it? Donna was like, "Oi, spaceman," blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not gonna be your mate, or just like snapping off. And Martha at the beginning was enamored by the doctor, and we have Belinda who's like, "No, you're not a good person."
Yeah, for sure. Well, I think she thinks he's a good person, but she understands very quickly how dangerous he is.
That's what
Like,
she.
I'm not one of your mysteries. I just want to go home. Take me home, kind of thing. Um, on the note with Martha, though, I do hope that we get to see her. I mean, we definitely got to see it in this episode, but I hope we get to see more of her be able to use her skills as a nurse you know, in conjunction with the plot, because we didn't get that a lot with Martha, which kind of bugged me. It's like, oh, you're going to introduce this character, like, oh, it's cool because she's in training to be the doctor. She becomes the doctor's companion. But outside of her first episode and like a tiny little bit in the Dalek two-parter, you don't they didn't use that as part of her character and use that to create the storylines for her. So I'm hoping we'll get to see more with that with Belinda, especially because she really does seem to care a lot for anybody who is suffering or in pain, to the point where she goes and turns on that little robot. She's like, I don't want to see anybody else suffer because the robots think that I need to, you know, get married to the AI guy or whatever. So I'm very interested to see how they use that more, hopefully, in this season.
I would like that too, because I was honestly very excited when she just jumped in and started using her profession. I feel like that's been moved away from a lot. Well, we didn't have a lot of people with like big professions like Rose, which is a shop person. Donna would say, "I'm just a temp," but she would always like, she would actually bring it to the table, like with like clerical stuff. Like, how'd you do that? Oh, I'm just a temp. Blah blah blah.
Yeah, like
Um,
the binders in the Santarin two-parter.
yeah, but I felt like that was one of my big gripes with Yaz as a character was I didn't dislike her, but I felt like she didn't act like a police officer or even a police officer in training when it came to situations or like there was no like she didn't really like take lead or like investigate things or it just didn't feel like she used the cop mentality a lot and I really enjoying that they're bringing all of that to the table with Belinda.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of times when any of that with Yaz, it was always kind of like off camera. Like you can definitely tell she did a little bit of that in the flux when they lose the doctor for a bit there, but a lot of that was like off camera investigating, which was like,
Yeah, yeah, but when she was
so
around the doctor it was more of like a, I'm not gonna say a, she just kind of like went with the flow and let the doctor
right,
do everything. Yeah.
for sure, yeah. So I'm hoping that she gets to use more of her skills, especially because she's very clearly she's like, I don't want to go on all these adventures. Thank you. I just want to go home.
And get
But
back to
she's
her
really
shift.
her
All
shift.
things.
I'm like,
She's like, I
dang, all
just
right,
want to
girl.
go to work.
I appreciate that she has an important job, and I applaud anybody in the medical field or any of those fields like that. But like, girl, it's okay to take a vacation once in a while, especially if you've got a time travel machine.
Well, I can't say this for everyone in the medical field, but I do know that like I don't work in an ER, but I do know that when you don't show up or call off or something expected happens, it impacts everyone else and also potentially not I guess potentially patient care because only at least in America, at least in the US, only so many patients can be seen by a nurse versus so many patients can be seen by a doctor, and there's a patient to staff ratio that can be seen at a time, so that backs things up and makes things busier for other people, and also just basic empathy for like people you work with and the I don't know. Like, she just has obviously she cares about other people more than herself, and it's very nice to see.
I also, one of the other things that I really liked about her, and I think this ties into what you were saying as well, is, when the robots touched down in basically her backyard, she didn't like run away. She like marched herself downstairs to go find out what was going on because she wanted to make sure that everything was safe and okay. I mean, obviously she gets a little like freaked out when they vaporize the poor cat. Poor kitty didn't do anything. Come on.
My landlord's gonna be pissed off at you.
And I love that that was her thought, not like robots are kidnapping. She's like, you need to stop ruining my house because the landlord's gonna be mad. Oh man. And also, even as she's being kidnapped, she's telling Mrs. Flood, like, hey, can you tell the neighbor whose cat this is that it went to live on a farm?
Yeah,
She's still concerned about like the other people in her neighborhood, even as she is being kidnapped by robots from space. And I think that's lovely.
it was. And it's more of the amount of the level of care that she has for people. Do you want to bridge at that moment the robot? I know I'm sorry I didn't like the how they looked when they were young. But to the costuming department, these robots were amazing. Oh my god.
Yeah.
Y'all put all your effort into those robots and I'm happy for it because they look amazing.
So good, and
Killer job.
it seems like they were completely practical too, because
Mhm.
they put a behind the scenes trailer out the other day. I was like, those are really cool. I'm sure somebody will attempt to cosplay them at some point because those are a really cool design. It reminded me a lot of the King Hydroflax robot body.
Okay.
It reminded me a lot of that.
It's like if Hydroflax and the robots from Smile had a love child.
There you go. Yes, that's exactly what it was. Yeah, for sure. With their little emoji faces. I
Yeah.
loved that. was so cute. I really enjoyed the robots. Those were very good design, especially because they were, it was good because like the plot needed them to be both like somewhat threatening but also friendly, because the idea was like, oh, they were getting along great until the AI jerk showed up. Makes a noise. They got along great until the AI guy showed up, but they still had to be threatening enough that they could conceivably be terrorizing the planet, kind of thing. I will admit though that when I saw the initial trailer, the way that their little vaporizing guns work, I thought that it was Daleks, and so I was a little bummed that it wasn't Daleks that
Hmm.
were behind the vaporizing, because you see the skeleton and then they poof, which is very similar to how the Daleks are. And the city looked very. It. I don't know if it's just me reaching, but like the city in Miss Belinda Chandraville or whatever, it looked very much like a cross between Gallifrey and the Dalek and Skaro. I don't know if I'm
Okay.
reaching, but in the trailer at first I thought it was Skaro, and
I
then I'm like,
mean,
oh, it's these robots. Okay.
that's fair. I can see that. Is it reaching? Maybe it kind of gave off, if we're going to compare it to other known planets or cityscapes in the Doctor Who universe, I'd say it almost looks like I forget the name of the planet, but the planet where the library was in Silence of the Library kind of looked like
Yeah,
that too.
a little bit. Yeah, but yeah, the robots are very cool though. You're very correct that those were some awesome designs. Let's go
All
for
right,
the end
let's
of the.
go into it. I'm going to talk about her
It's a
interaction
Doctor
with
Who
the
podcast.
Doctor.
We'll go all over the place.
Yeah. So her interaction with the Doctor at the end of the episode was perfect until it wasn't for me. So when he scanned her DNA and she was mad about it, perfect. When she just wanted to be taken home, I'm not one of your adventures, perfect. When he started up the TARDIS and it wasn't working, okay. When he started up the TARDIS again and he's like, something's bouncing us off. At that point, I kind of felt like maybe she's like, are you trying to kidnap me? Just take me home. Why don't you just take me home? I felt like there should have been more dialogue there, but instead they kind of went with it. Maybe it was because it, like, I think that was kind of the rush part for me, because maybe if they started off like that, we'd be spending so much time of the Doctor trying to gain her trust instead of like, I'm just trying to take you home. But naturally, with how she already was with the Doctor, I felt like she should have been more upset that the TARDIS wasn't working, because he's already shown that he's doing whatever he wants. Even though he apologized, how's she supposed to believe that? Especially when he's all of a sudden saying, we're being repelled off of your work, off. I can't take you. I don't know what's happening. Like, it, I think any natural person would have felt more panicked in that situation and not just accepting, like, oh my God, well, you're trying your best.
I'm interested to see how they explore if there's any after effects of the Doctor taking on that explosion from her from the star certificates crossing, because one thing that I picked up on, and I rewatched the episode to make sure that I wasn't just not that I didn't miss anything. When they bring the TARDIS out, she says, "Is that your TARDIS?" He never used that word around her. He said spaceship. He never said TARDIS around her.
Okay.
So I'm wondering if there's more to it. I'm not sure,
I
or if that's
might
just something that got lost in the edit.
I
I
might
don't
have
know.
an explanation. Maybe.
Okay.
So our wonderful chief and editor, Monica, pointed out right away too. Is like, did he ever say TARDIS in front of her? And I questioned, when he was flying parallel with them, I questioned if the robots called it that, because that was the only other time I would have
Okay.
thought it came up. I don't think it was there. I would have to rewatch the episode to confirm. So I don't believe anyone told her the name on screen. How when the diplomas, when the certificates touched, all of a sudden he was intertwined with her timeline, and I think either she inherently just knows about him, or because maybe if he's been around her through her entire life, maybe she just picked up things like something like he mentioned it at one point. It just sounded familiar. And she was there as a baby though. He was holding her as a baby though. Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
are they gonna make
Yeah,
her
there's
his
definitely
daughter? Oh, I don't know. Well, I know because there's something weird going on. Obviously, I don't know what this what did they call it? The thing. The
yeah, the time fracture. Interest. I mean, maybe it's not in everybody's copy, but at least in the captions that I had, time fracture was capitalized, which I thought was very interesting
Hmm.
because that makes it seem important
Yeah.
and like it's not completely sealed off like the doctor says he is.
He just might not understand the gravity of the situation. I'm waiting to see if they say that again this season.
I don't
That
know. It's gonna
that's
be
definitely something.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, speaking of like the whole sequence where they have that kind of time explosion or whatever, I wanted to talk about like different standout moments and performances in the episode, and that was definitely like as I don't want to say small, but as like a not a huge like dramatic part of the episode as that was. I loved how that was shot. Like it was very it was a little bit the vibes of the creepy tunnel from Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, but I really enjoyed it. I thought it was very interestingly shot and kind of I mean, they still explained it once it was over about how, it was like time was going weird and wild and whatever, especially with, I think he's a sperm and an egg. Oh, God. Here comes the robot to clean him up.
I thought that was a little
But I
weird
thought it
too.
was a really
Sorry,
cool shot. Yeah.
it was a cool shot, but
Yeah.
as far as her character, was just like, "Oh my god," and
Yeah.
laughing at it.
Yeah.
That was a little weird to me, especially with how
Sometimes,
empathetic she was with
yeah.
everything else.
I will say sometimes, like, you laugh at stuff just because it's so, like, absurd. And I've
Yeah,
been doing
fair.
that a lot with the news lately, where you just have to laugh because what do you mean? What do you mean? What do you mean? Plus, I mean, it I don't think she left thing. It didn't seem like she left things like off awfully with him, but she also like was very much like this is not a person I want in my life anymore.
Yeah.
Because yeah, and it was with the second time I watched the episode, I picked up on his red flags a bit more quickly. Like his first line is like, "Oh, that's like billions of miles away," and I know girls aren't great with maths. However, I was like, dude. Mm. I also really loved the Doctor and Belinda's kind of first face to face interaction in the throne room. It was such a cool like with a show that's been going on as long as Doctor Who has. It's like hard to always come up with new concepts, but I loved the idea that like they can't hear every ninth word, and so he was able to put a message into that, and I thought it was really cool. And I also again really loved how quickly she picked up on that. Like you can see it like she's like a little confused at first, but she picks it up very quickly.
Yeah.
Um, she's like counting on her fingers. I'm like, yeah, I'd have to do that too. But I loved that scene. It was such a unique first face to face meeting of the Doctor and a new companion.
And if we're going to talk about standout performances, Doctor Who continues to cast maybe the best supporting cast that you'll never see again in their episodes, and we will dearly miss Sasha 55. I think that was her
Yes,
name.
for sure. Though if they don't get it in the future, if they don't have a big finish series with her in the 15th Doctor, I'd be shocked for those to cover those 6 months. It
True.
definitely feels like a thing that they would pick up and do at some point, or like a comic series or a book or any of those. I'm sure there's a story that somebody will tell one day.
Speaking of 6 months in time that passed, so we had in the Christmas special, what was the name of it? Doesn't matter. Christmas
Joy to the
special,
world.
Joy to the World. Exactly. So in Joy to the World, the Doctor was also stuck for a period of time without the companion. And that's when they realized they needed chair time. And there were no chairs on the TARDIS. And the first thing I said when he was back in the TARDIS chasing after Belinda was like, he still has no chairs. So I actually wonder if Sasha and him had chair time.
I hope so. But
Sasha 55, if I'm
the
proper.
robots had the TARDIS, I think, for the thing, and they had lots of chairs in their little underground bunker thing, I
Well, that's
think.
what I mean. If they had like, obviously it was could be
Yeah.
off the TARDIS, but if they had like chair time, like
Yeah.
quality time together, sitting in the chair.
It also kind of struck me how like a lot of other people died in
Yeah.
that kind of little scene, but the only one that he paused and like was like by was Sasha. And I'm like, oh, I want to know that story too. I hated that like in the middle of watching this episode, my thought when I saw that happen was like, oh great, the butts are gonna complain about the doctor's crying again. I
I was gonna touch on that too. I feel like some people are gonna just, oh, it was fine until there he goes crying again. Like,
Yeah.
dude, just
Like, how dare he show emotion? Like, I think it's great that however 1,000-year-old alien will still like take the moment to mourn a friend and like sees the emotion and sees the tragedy and tries to do something about it. There's probably a conversation could be had about the fact that he only like cried for Sasha. Still, I
and
don't understand. I don't understand that as a criticism. Like every doctor needs to be a little bit different. It's like,
exactly.
you went from how whimsical and like funny Matt Smith was, in later episodes he obviously got a lot more like serious, but then you got Peter Capaldi who's like, people hate like there were some people who really didn't like Peter Capaldi because like, oh, he's so mean and serious and da 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 da, and I'm like, you got to have contrasts and
And you
I
had
don't know.
doctors that dealt with things like loss or just people's lives in general in different ways.
Exactly.
Not all of them were the same. You had obviously Shooty is very connected with people, and expresses it outwardly. Then you had the 10th Doctor who would say, I'm Time Lord Victorious. The universe owes me this." And then you have a woman taking her own life because they're like, no, you don't have that control over time. I forget what her name was, but at the end of Waters of Mars.
Adelaide Brooke.
Damn, impressive.
I wish my brain did other things, but yes, thank you.
And then you have, as another contrast from the full other side of the spectrum, you have the 12th Doctor in Into the Dalek taking not the TARDIS core, taking the core out of the sonic screwdriver, saying, "Here, swallow this." And he's like, "Will it help?" Swallows it, and the thing just incinerates him, legitimately killing a person. And all he could basically say was, "Let's move on." And it's kind of like I know he touched on it later, like you just keep trying until you succeed. But he literally fed that soldier to the antibodies or whatever they were called inside of the Dalek. No remorse at the time either. So you have very different spectrums of emotional capacities or emotional expression with all these doctors. So just because someone puts out a tear doesn't really mean anything. Like, they're all different. They're
Yeah.
all the same man, but they're all different. It's just this time he's showing it on the outside instead of holding it in.
Yeah. Which can be healthy. Like you don't need to be keep it all in until you explode. Hello, Mr. 10th Doctor. Like I don't know. I don't know. But it it just irritates me that that's such a like, oh, he's crying, oh, the show's over. Oh. I'm like, oh god, stop. Because I mean, here's the thing. Not every doctor is going to work for every person, and that is part of the beauty of the show.
Yes.
If you don't like a doctor, the next one you might, or you can go rewatch the doctors that you know that you like, because there's plenty of material out there, unless it's like the Eighth Doctor. And then, well, there's plenty of audio stuff, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
It just people get so entitled, and they only want their version of what they think the perfect combination of factors for the show to be. And it's like, unless you are able to be talented enough and get that job, you don't really get much of a say. Just wait and see what the next iteration brings. And I'm sure there will be a next iteration, no matter what anybody wants to try and say is or is not going to happen with the show.
They've
It
been
just,
talking about people rumor canceling for I don't know what. Ever since the show came back, I guess.
Yeah,
Like you always hear controversy over it.
exactly.
Um, we need to
And
touch on
and I
something we
just
haven't touched yet, and
and
continue your
the
thought.
whole like thing too is just like it's been said multiple times like Disney is not going to make a decision until after season 2 is over. Yeah, people want to be like, oh, they're canceling it, they're canceling it. I'm like, okay, Disney's doing a great job of promoting this new season. I think we're okay.
Yeah. So we need to touch on something that we haven't touched on yet, and
Hmm.
it's Belinda. What was her name? What was her name? The
Belinda.
actress. No, the actress.
Oh, Verada Safu.
Yes, he returns to Doctor Who, and not as obviously as a different character, but possible lineage from what we're gathering so far to the character she played in Boom. And where is the connect on that? And how do we think it's going to connect?
I'm not sure, but I do appreciate the Doctor learning from past mistakes, like with Clara, about not keeping that a secret this time. Like, hey, by the way, I met somebody with your face in the far future. Do you know anything about that? I just want to let you know and make sure that we're on the same page. And the like with Ruby, like he remembered to actually say, "Hey, by the way, I tested your DNA," even though he forgot to ask permission, kind of thing. I'm like, we're
Yeah.
learning a little bit at a time here. I will be interested to see how that works out because it seems like it wasn't something that was planned the entire time. From the interviews that I've seen with Verada, it seems like they called her back after Boom was all done and dusted to be like, "Hey, do you want to audition?" Or I don't know if she had to audition or what it was, but it didn't seem like that was a discussion at the time that she was in Boom that she was going to come back. So I will be interested to see, you know, how that all works out, I guess.
Yeah, because I would automatically just assume that, oh, she had family and they all lived until that point in time, but it might be a little deeper than that. But then again, who knows? It could simply just be that, considering um, Ruby's mom was just a regular person. So maybe we're done with the whole fantasy, and the doctor's learning that, hey, sometimes life is just life. Maybe
Exactly.
that's the lesson in this. Who knows? But I am interested to see what the connection is, and if it has anything to do with the time fracture
Yeah.
or something else.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So we've been kind of talking about it, but we've got all these like different twists and timey wimey, which I, I loved her little line of timey wimey. Am I sick? I love that line. I have a feeling that will be a ribbon at Gallifrey one. For sure. There's like a lot of mysteries we already kind of and and twists. We already kind of talked about Alan being the AI slash Al, which it's like Weird Al has that problem too. Where they got the star certificate from originally, why Belinda knows the word TARDIS and Mrs. Flood. Do we have any other? I mean, the one thing, and also like the Doctor being cagey about where he heard about Belinda as well, where he's like, oh, I have to be careful because of timelines, but I heard your name from somebody. It's like, okay, who? Because I don't know.
Yeah. It made it sound like he came back from the future. Where, like, yeah, it. I don't really have an explanation or even a thought in that, because that's legitimately how they just started the season. Um, so I'm not sure where that is, but I really hope they circle back on that, because if they don't, I'm going to be really disappointed.
Because when I was going through my notes for this and for previous episodes too, it's like I want to be drawn in by the different mysteries that they have this season, but also like I keep remembering how like Russell was like, oh, we did a mystery to get people talking and then didn't have a great payoff. Which again, like I understood where he was coming with that payoff because, it was his response to the whole Ray Nobody, but also actually Ray Palpatine thing. But I don't want to get my hopes up too much or put too much into thinking about these different mysteries. Like, I'm sure some of these will be solved because they are directly stated questions in the episode. Um, but you know what I mean? It's just like we'll see, but I don't want to get too far into it. Like I felt like I did with Ruby a couple times, possibly.
Yeah, we all got pretty deep into the whole Ruby mystery. But that was the whole purpose of that season, was
Right.
the mystery, not just for us, but for Sutek. Like Sutek wanted to know more than any of us what that mystery was and who she was. Like, so that was yeah, it was intentional. Was the payoff big? It is what it is. Not everything has to be a big payoff, and you know, I get that, but I don't know. I'm curious to
Yeah.
find out, or maybe Miss Flood just orchestrated everything, and that's why she was like, "Don't let them see me here,"
Yeah.
speaking to us directly.
Or I do wonder. I wonder if the Doctor heard about Belinda from the 14th Doctor, that is, who is still on Earth. I wonder if that's a possibility at any point.
How would that have to do with timelines, though? Or
Yeah. I
but that
mean,
wouldn't make
they did
sense.
hint.
Hold on.
They did hint that 14's using the TARDIS a little bit once in a while. So I don't know.
Well, I was gonna say, so when the certificates touch, he's like, "Oh, we've been connected much longer than you think." Did he already know that then a little bit, or did that happen because of that? Like, was it a bootstrap
Yeah.
theory where it's always been, but we find out it didn't occur until the future? So when did it actually start? Is it bootstrap, or did the certificates touching at that point fuse them together in time, fuse their
Yeah.
timeline together?
Yeah. I don't know. It's definitely, we'll definitely have to wait and see, I guess. But I don't know. Mostly, I'm like, I want to know why she knows the word TARDIS. Like, I wonder if we're gonna get a couple little moments like that throughout the next couple episodes. Where she'll say something that he's never told her before, and then eventually he'll be like, "Wait a minute, I never told you about that. How do you know about that?"
Yeah, I'm gonna go on a limb and say something that's probably not gonna happen, but I just want to say it so it's recorded, even though I don't believe it's ever gonna be true. Because he was holding her as a baby, and what if the timelines fused and she is his daughter? Not Jenny, Doctor's daughter, but like Gallifrey daughter.
Yeah. I don't know. I think there's a whole lot. I mean, because here's the thing: is anytime I have like what I think is a wild Doctor Who theory, I remember when when the news was coming about like who Jenna Coleman was going to be playing, and they were like, "Oh, this can be a character like a companion like there's never been in Doctor Who," and da 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 da. And like I remember just like jokingly saying to somebody or writing down somewhere like, "Oh, what if she's a Dalek? Ha ha ha!" And then Asylum of the Daleks came out, and I was like, "Okay."
I'm kind of glad you brought up Clara, because this kind of feels like a reverse Clara incident where she jumped into the Doctor's time stream, and now the Doctor is connected into Belinda's time stream.
Yeah, that's a good point. I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah,
You
but
know,
how
because
deep does it go?
yeah, because like I kind of said earlier, like with 60 years of the show, it's hard to come up with like completely original concepts. So it is kind of interesting. You know, you can always kind of talk about like, you know, Belinda's kind of a bit Martha, a bit Donna, and a bit Clara. It's still obviously her own character, but it's just hard to not draw those comparisons when there's 60 years worth of stories to draw from and to remember, especially when you know the current showrunner also was around for a lot of those stories as well.
Yeah, and not everything and everyone can be different too, because
Right.
my experience, you'll go through life, and then at some point you meet the seven same people that you met in high school. Even though they look different, they you always find like these exact same types of people throughout your life. So not everything's going to be new, and not everything's going to be fresh. Everything's
Yeah.
always, oh, I've dealt with this before, or oh, I know this type of person.
Yeah.
So
Though I
yeah.
will say, for crying out loud, please just I need the next companion to not be contemporary Earth. Like
Oh,
that would help bring be something different. Because we have not had a non-contemporary Earth companion since the show came back in 2005. Apart from, I guess, if you want to say like Nardole or River, technically, but still, come on.
well, River. I'm going to argue River was human plus. That's how they
Right.
classified her.
So
She
she
basically
wasn't
was.
contemporary or more or less ish, depending on how you want to look at it. I guess is my point. But yeah, was there anything else we want to talk about with this episode specific?
I think the only other thing I wanted to touch on, and it was just a little like, I guess like it was a small thing that was like, was the AI. They're
Mm-hmm.
like the AI generator, but at no point did anyone remember or know that it was Al. Like there were people there when they installed him into the machine. How they not know what the machine is called?
I'm trying to remember. They said that was 10 years ago, though, so I guess it depends on. I mean, because he did have
That's
them
not
like
even a
kill the other
generation.
people in the room.
He
He did
killed
have them
one
kill all the other
person.
people in the
I
room.
thought it was only
Yeah.
one person.
Well, yeah, but then the scene ended, I guess.
But then the robots would remember unless he decided to rename himself.
Yeah, I mean that's entirely possible because he had that whole little, exchange. Let me see. I wrote it down because I thought it was an interesting thing that he said.
Because
He
was
says,
it
"You mean
clever?
it's
Was it
you
clever?
mean
Yes.
it's yeah, you mean it's like a game with robots and cities and lasers, and you're saying it's mine, and I can make up the rules and win." So I'm sure he might have been able to do something
He
with the
he might have
robots.
renamed himself, but that was my um gripe with that, like, because even unless he changed his name across the board with the robot that it was AI, not Al, everyone would know it was Al in the first place. Again, was it clever? Yes, it was a clever
Yeah.
reveal. It was a
Especially because
clever
like if,
reveal.
if you look at it when that little door opens, you're then able to see the little bottom of the L,
Yeah,
which I thought was funny. Like,
yeah.
ah, yes.
So I hats off to that. It was funny, it was clever. As
Yeah.
far as my mind, it didn't stand up as far as why didn't anyone know this?
Yeah.
They were they were there. It
I'm
wasn't like it was like 500 years of time or something. It wasn't like a lot of time passed and history was lost. But I don't know. That was
yeah.
the only thing on that.
Yeah, it might be because, like, again, there's a lot of like kind of somewhat hand waving, like, oh, it was the time fracture kind of thing. But I feel like some of that's going to come back, especially because another thing that I noticed on my second watch through of the episode is Belinda disappears from May 24th, which is the date that they try to get back to, which is the date that the second to last episode of the season will come out. So I thought that was she didn't disappear in April; she disappeared in May, which I thought was interesting. It's all sorts of weird, again, to use the phrase because it's Doctor Who, it's all sorts of weird timey-wimey stuff. So I'm sure there's some stuff.
We do have to touch on because he can't go back. Obviously, I'm sure everyone thought Angels of Manhattan all over again. I can't go
Mm-hmm.
back, but it is implied because of just before the credits rolled. There was a cheesy amount of historical landmarks
The Eiffel
flying through
Tower.
space. Like, yes, we got it. It's Earth. It
Yep.
might be destroyed. But yeah, you see the Eiffel Tower, you see part of the Statue of Liberty, you see one of the pyramids. Um, I
Black
don't.
London cab.
Yeah, the cab. I just thought that was funny that
Yeah.
there's all these great landmarks, and then you just have like a vehicle for their landmark. But so what happened to Earth
Yeah.
if the Earth is destroyed, and is that her time, or is that like did is that her time, or is that the current time that they're in now?
Yeah, I mean, because they at the because like one of the last things we get to look at is that calendar, and for as much
Oh,
it
that's
is,
right. There was a
and it's
calendar.
got everything marked off until May 24th.
Okay,
So
that's right.
we're
There
to
was a
assume that I
calendar.
guess that the Earth got destroyed at some point in the hours after Belinda left. Um, so I'm not sure.
And
I'm sure that'll
14
be.
didn't do anything about it yet again.
Yep, yep. He must be somewhere off doing something. Cause, dude, I get you're trying to do therapy in reverse, but my guy, you gotta do a little bit of. If you're gonna be on Earth, you gotta help a little tiny bit, just a little. Um, but yeah. So now that we've kind of talked about, what else are we looking forward to this season? Now that we're getting started with it.
So I am looking forward to potentially finding out what's going on with Miss Flood. I feel like
Mm-hmm.
that's going to be the whole arc of this season with how they ended last season, unless they're just baiting us and gonna prolong her through everything. However, and I'm saying this with the intent of with care. I'm saying this with care. I don't know how old she is, so I don't know how long they can prolong her story for upon like multiple seasons. So I would say it'd probably be safe for this to conclude her story, and then if she is some Time Lord or is some mystical being, have her change form thereafter, because eventually they're going to have to recast her. I hope she is around for a long time, but obviously life doesn't last forever in real terms. So we'll see what happens with her. What else was I going to say? Oh, I look forward to hopefully this season we'll get hints of the return of the Valyard, because that's who David Tennant is. I will not stop at that. As the only reason, an acceptable way that David Tennant returned to the show is because he is the was it they called it the amalgamation or whatever that happened between the Doctor's 11th and last regeneration. He's the Valyard. He has to be the Valyard. If he's not the Valyard, I'm gonna be so pissed off.
I will say, I think I remember, I forget if it was something that I've seen from press for this season or for last season, but I think I did see that RTD did say that we will get an answer on Miss Flood this season, so that's good.
Okay, good.
Yep, this might be a controversial take, but if we do not the I Have a Dog song in the song contest episode, I'm going to be mad. Because that would be so funny. It's so perfect.
It would be funny and perfect.
People would be
However,
mad. People would be mad, but I would have a good time.
it would be funny. But aren't those contests supposed to be original songs or no?
I don't know. Because I guess it depends on how much it's taking from the concept of Eurovision versus it just being its own thing.
True.
But I think it would be funny if that got brought
It would be funny. I'm not gonna lie.
like that was one of my first thoughts when I saw the trailer. I'm like, they better use that song because it would make people mad, but it would make me happy. Which is
Or
probably not a great way to like interact with media, but I I loved The Devil's Chord. I loved the musical episode bit, and I know other people really hated it, and I'm sorry that they hated it because it's everybody can like what they like, and if you don't like musicals, you don't like musicals, but like musicals bring me joy. So
you know what? I'm just gonna double up on. Actually, I'm gonna triple up on it. So it opens with that song, and then immediately after that, like we go to like escapades, and they're dealing with things, and then it goes back to someone singing the Goblin song, and then we cut to more escapades and everything else, and then at the end of the show it closes with, what was the song called? There's always a twist at the end.
I desperately hope so. Oh my goodness. I am really looking forward to, like, I don't know what's gonna happen in that song contest episode, but I'm like, I'm assuming there's gonna be songs and that's gonna make me happy. In a non like, I am really looking forward to the new writers this season. I think it's because, it was the one episode last season that we got that was brand new writers for the show was fantastic. All right, so one of the new writers that I'm very excited for. It's for episode 5, which is the story and the engine. I am not going to say this man's name correctly, and I apologize. Una Ellams, I hope is a close pronunciation to the man's name. He's one of the new writers. He is actually from Nigeria. And when I was able to speak to Shudi Gatwa and Radhasethu about their favorite costumes for this season, which you can find that article on Temple of Geek, Shudi actually said that one of his favorite looks for his doctor this season is the look that he has when they go to Lagos, which is in Nigeria. So I'm very excited to see how they do that, just because I think that'll be a fun episode. He talked about, how it was just cool for like the doctor to have cornrows and everything, and have very like have that story and the location and the time period very inform the outfit that he's wearing for that episode. So I'm excited for that as well.
So it sounds like this season is going to just be dealing with, it sounds like a lot of Earth mainly. I don't know if it's all going to be Earth, but it sounds like it's going to be a lot of Earth in different eras because they're trying to get back to her time but can't.
Right, yeah, so it seems like, it'll be because like this is going to be very few like contemporary Earth story. The Well is co-written by Russell T Davies and Sharma Angel Walfall. Hopefully, again, I apologize if I'm mispronouncing anybody's name. But then there are 3 episodes that are written by other writers, which is Pete McTighe, who's writing Lucky Day, and Ayuna Ellams writing the story in the engine, and then Juno Dawson writing the Interstellar Song Contest. McTighe, I believe, he wrote one of the. Oh, he wrote Kerblam, so he's not a completely new writer for Doctor Who, but he hasn't done as much as say Russell has. Yeah, like between Russell and Stephen Moffat, they've both wrote a insane amount of Doctor Who. Oh, and Pete McTighe is also, as I'm looking at Wikipedia, he is also a co-writer for The War Between the Land and the Sea, which is the spin-off that will be coming out next year. So that's exciting.
I just realized something about Belinda's character that I can. She has her own Taylor Swift song.
She does?
Yeah, because she can go. Because if you think about it, I can go anywhere I want, just not home. Thank you.
There you go.
Thank you.
I look forward to the fan edits to that song. As long as we still have TikTok, I'm sure those will pop up. That or gift sets on Tumblr. We'll see. I will say I'm also excited to see Ruby again. I'm excited that her story is continuing. We will get to see Unit again. I love Kate Stewart. I wish that we would see Osgood. I don't know what Osgood's up to these days.
Yeah.
I don't know what she's up to. I want to see her 13th Doctor inspired outfit.
Oh, yeah, huh?
Be curious to see, as I am curious to see if we will get any follow-up at all about the Master being trapped in that gold tooth and whose hand picked that off the unit helipad at the end of the Giggle.
Oh yeah, I think we were all supposed to meant to forget about that. They had name which everyone attributed to, forget her name, the Master's wife, because that was reminiscent
Lucy
of
Saxon.
her. Thank you. I'm terrible with names.
I had read the Giggle, the novelization that they did, which is by James Goff. Oh, in the novelization, this is what it says about that scene. The wind blew across the platform, glass and ashes and forgotten dreams. What was that on the edge lying forgotten? A golden tooth. Ping! There was no one on the platform, and yet a hand reached out, a woman's hand, nails painted bright red. The woman picked up the tooth, took it. As she did, there was a faint echo of a chuckle. An old madness that knew, gloriously, that some things never ended. The laughter danced on the wind for a few moments and then faded away. Did the woman smile? We may never know. Perhaps she did. So I just thought that was an interesting, little bit of the novelization, which they obviously don't know anything extra, as far as I'm aware, because the episode was written by Russell T Davies and not James Goff.
Yeah, maybe it was just the Master hand that picked up the tooth, like from Smash Brothers, the one that just comes out.
Maybe it was because Missy also had red nails at one point, so we'll see.
Maybe.
I would desperately love to see Matt Smith come back and play the Master. I think that would be fun. A little, commentary on David Tennant coming back to play the Doctor again. But we shall see. There's a lot to come in this season. I can tell. We'll see where all these mysteries lead. It'll be exciting to see.
So we do have an outro, because I forgot. We do close things, because I hate endings. I always tear out the last page.
There you go.
And throw away the outro, because you're all stuck with us. Anyway, that's it for this episode of Temple of Geeks Who Review. We hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please be sure to subscribe and leave us a review. Those reviews do help us, and we do love the attention. Not really, we just like interaction. It does help us a lot. You can also follow us on social media for more Doctor Who content. You can find us on Blue Sky, TikTok. You can go to templeofgeek.com, and if you could, please join our Discord. We are very active on there, and we do have a whole community that talks about multi-fandom things and different channels, different things. Basically everything's in there. You can interact with us. You could also visit templeofgeek.com. I think I already said that, but I can't emphasize that enough. Go to templeofgeek.com. That's where we save all of our articles, and we can read up on everything Doctor Who and all the fandom stuff. You can find Doctor Who cosplay guides, episode reviews, key news galore, and more. Until next time, we appreciate you all, and thank you for listening.
Bye.
Bye.